Jesus will bless you. Teach us your word once again in Jesus' name. This is the ministry of Moses, part 72, and we're going to take our text from Numbers chapter 14, verse 22 to 35. From verse 22, we saw that the cure to great fear is more glory. The more the fear, the more the glory you will need to tackle it. By the time the Lord gave an account of the sins of the Israelites in this verse, it was then that we got to know that the Israelites have succeeded in tempting God 10 times. But this time, God made a scary statement. He said in verse 23, the Lord said, those involved will not see the promised land. Now, the reason is this. The reason is this. Your unbelief stops you from accessing the reality of God's promise. So, by love, God can give you a promise by love. But you will need to enter into the reality of that promise by faith. So by love, God gives promise to people. But those people who have been promised, those people who have received the promise, will need to enter into it by faith. Are you with me? Promise comes by love, but we enter into the reality by faith. The reason these people were disqualified from saying is because they have chosen to provoke the Lord. Any attempt to tempt God is an attempt to provoke Him. If God says He will do something and you are sure He said it, then trying to seek for further proofs to be sure is the same as tempting God. Trying to be sure of what you are sure God have done or said is a way of tempting Him. Those who tempt God provokes Him, and those who provokes Him loses their chances of entering into the promised land. Trying to be sure of what God has said is a way of tempting God. Trying to be sure after you know that God has spoken. You have heard God, you are convinced, yet you are still asking for more proofs. What you are doing is you are tempting God. Receiving a promise from God is not enough. You must learn to trust Him completely. The cure to temptation is trust. If you truly trust a person, then there may not be any need to tempt such people. Sometimes when we tempt others, we are doing that to be sure of something or to further solidify what we hold as truth. Take, for instance, a husband who finds it hard trusting his wife may end up, a husband who finds it hard trusting his wife will end up testing the woman. Are you there? And the reason he will test the woman is because he does not have trust in the woman. So anytime we test God, we are doing that. Anytime we tempt God, we are doing that because we do not have absolute trust in Him. Are you there? Now, let's look at this scenario. Let's look at this case now. A husband finds it hard trusting his wife, so he just felt the woman can leave him at any time if she sees someone better. So this time, the man planned with one of his handsome friends who lived far away. He promised to pay his friend for the assignment. Now, the assignment was for that friend to try convincing his wife to marry him. So the husband told the friend all the keys to his wife, her best food, her best color, her best gift, and so on. What the husband wanted to test is he wanted to see if his wife will say yes to that his friend. Now, after 2 months of tempting his wife with his friends, the husband then concluded that his wife was a faithful woman because she was not submitting to, she was not ready to agree to the request of his friend. Now, the problem is now that the man's friend who was employed as a tempter does not want to stop because He felt the woman is wonderful and he wants to be around her. What do you think will happen if this plan leaks out? Do you think the wife will feel honored knowing that her husband does not even believe that she is loyal to him? If you are the wife, what will you do if you find out that all that has been happening to you for the past 2 months is a game that was planned by your husband? This shows how God feels when we doubt his loyalty and his fatherhood. One of the greatest things we can give to God is our trust. This is probably what the Israelites do not know that made them collide with God's anger many times. Let us see what the Lord said concerning Caleb in verse 24. But my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit with him and had followed me fully, him will I bring into the land wherein he went, and his seed shall possess, it. The Lord testified that Caleb had another spirit. This shows that Caleb had a spirit that is different from the general spirit of unbelief that is affecting the people in the camp. You can't live successfully among rebellious people if you